The Littles and the Summer Storm. Crash, boom, bang. Lightning flashed, thunder roared. Lucy Little held her tiny hands over her tiny ears. Come on, Lucy, her brother Tom shouted. We have to go out of the storm. Tom and Lucy ran across the lawn. The rest of the Littles were waiting at their secret doorway to Mr. and Mrs. Big's house. I hope that wind doesn't blow this whole house away, said Mrs. Little said. The little family lived inside the walls of the Big's family house. The Littles were just a few inches tall, so there was plenty of room for them. When the Bigs were home, the Littles kept out of sight. But now the Bigs were away for the weekend, so the Littles did not have to hide. They were not afraid of the big cat's Hildy. She was their friend. The rain came down all day. Mr. Little began to worry. I hope the cellar isn't flooding, he said. Let's go down and see, said Uncle Pete. The Littles went down the cellar stairs. Uh-oh, Mr. Little was right. There was water all over the cellar floor. The drain must be stopped up, said Mr. Little. I'd better swim down and fix it, or sooner everything will be under water. The drain is in the middle of the floor, said Granny Little. That's a long way to swim. No one has to swim, Lucy said. We can build a raft with Henry Big's Lincoln logs and row out there. Everyone liked Lucy's idea. The Littles found the Lincoln logs in Henry's big room. They loaded 5 logs into their tin can elevator and took them downstairs. Everyone helped to get the logs down the cellar stairs. It was hard work. Then Tom and Lucy found some rubber bands to tie the logs together. Granny went into Big's kitchen and came back with 2 plastic spoons to use as paddles. At last they were ready to go. All aboard, Lucy sang out. Sorry, Lucy, Mr. Little said. There is only room for me and maybe Tom on the raft. That's not fair, Lucy cried. The raft was my idea. Tears filled her eyes, but no one noticed. Lucy climbed to the top of the cellar stairs. Just above her head was a large pipe. It went all the way across the room. Far below the pipe, the raft floated along. Suddenly, Lucy got another idea. Lucy pulled herself onto the pipe. Slowly she inched her way along it. Then she leaned over to get a better view. Oops! Lucy fell head over heels. Help! She yelled. Somebody save me! Tom and Mr. Little rowed towards the sound of Lucy's voice, but Lucy had disappeared beneath the cold, dark waves. Suddenly, Lucy's head popped up. Look what I found, she called. She was holding onto a wet rug. This was clogging the drain. Grab my paddle, Lucy, Tom cried. He pushed a plastic spoon towards her. Then Mr. Little pulled Lucy onto the raft. The Littles rowed back to the stairs. By the time they got there, most of the water had already gone down the drain. The very next day, the Bigs came home. They had seen the storms on the TV news. Mr. and Mrs. Big checked out their house from top to bottom. They could hardly believe their eyes. I don't get it, said Mr. Big. The yard was such a mess, but the house is fine. Yes, Mrs. Big agreed. Why, even the cellar is as dry as a bone.